Good afternoon, all of you.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So we still don't have all the people. Anyways, let's continue. I think we were on retail banking. We were looking different kind of customers, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Last week.
I think 22 page number of retail banking.
Yeah. So we had started looking at type of customers. Now, why is it important before you form a relationship with the customer to know the type of customer? Why it is important to know the type of customer?
To know the type of customer, first thing, to know whether he is an Indian or an NRI,
Okay.
and to know about his everything. Like we do the KYC before opening the account.
Correct.
To understand whether this person is good or not, in terms of either he's doing the black money, money laundering something. So
Right.
for this purpose, we need to know the customer about more.
Yeah. Yeah. So the first step to knowing for account opening is KYC or know your customer. It is important one because it is a regulatory aspect. Also, the documentation of the customer would depend on the type of customer he or she is. So therefore, before we open the account, we need to know the type of customer. So yeah. So we've seen there can be different kind of yeah. So we had seen this. We had seen the kind of okay. So individuals, we need the
Happy Teachers Day.
oh, thank you. Actually, I do not consider myself as a teacher because teachers had a lot of responsibilities. So
But
teachers are
Ma'am, you also play your responsibilities.
for us.
no. See, I say I you know what I feel is like we are facilitator. We help you in learning, but learning is your responsibility. Teachers are different.
And
They
you
take
actually you
responsibility.
guides us.
You are a teacher for us.
I'm no, you know, if you look at the teachers in nursery, if you remember, they will hold the hand and they will make right and all that. So that responsibility we can't take. You know, you
You
have to
are doing
learn
all
on
things,
your own.
ma'am.
Yeah.
You are doing
Okay.
all things virtually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So, infant, you have bought a new device or what? I get a HP in front of your name.
Yes, ma'am. I have logged in from my laptop.
Okay. This Bindu has still not joined. Don't know whether she wants to continue or she wants to leave. Anyways, fine. Yeah, these are ways of doing business. You have if only one person is doing a business, then he will do it as a sole proprietor. So the KYC of sole proprietor is easy. It is very similar to individual. So ID address, also ID address of his business. Even if he does not have a PAN card in the name of the firm, we can accept the PAN card in his name. So sole proprietorship, KYC is easy because there is only one person responsible for that particular firm. So easy to form with least amount of documentation requirement, can be formed with a single business owner. The individual business owner is synonymous with business itself, and individual is liable for all debts incurred by the business. Existing law in India do not require registration of a sole proprietorship. However, appropriate licenses, certificate of registration like TIN, PAN, shop and establishment certificates, etc. are obtained to create this legal entity. And there are no specific laws for such entities. Incidentally, even for tax purpose, the PAN of a business owner becomes the PAN of the proprietorship firm. Proprietorship firms are permitted to register under the goods and service against a single PAN. From the accounting perspective, proprietorship firms draw up very simple financial statement which are not even required to be audited or reviewed. So why do you think there'll be no requirement for audit of a single partnership account?
Because he's only liable for the accounting.
Correct, because he is only the person who will want to know how his business is doing. Nobody else is concerned. So it's not like a public company where you have lots of shareholders who also want to know how your business is performing. This person is working on his own, and therefore his accounts are only of importance to him. So there is no audit required, no review required. The loan to the proprietor would obviously be given on the credit worthiness of the proprietor himself. So considering the risk perception attached to such entities, typically lender resist their loan exposure to these entities. So usually you will not find unsecured loans to this. However, if you look at the present government has been trying to do a lot for businesses. So you have this thing, what is that loan? The loan of 10 lakhs, which is easily available even to sole proprietor for starting a business. Just give me a moment. I'm thinking of the loan. I'm forgetting. I'll just think of it and let you know. Okay, then two or more, up to 20. So as per Indian Partnership Act, you can have maximum 20 partners in any business. If it is a banking business, then whose mic is on? Achha, Bindu has joined. So if it is, yeah, okay. So if it is a banking business, then the number of partners are limited to 10. Otherwise, you can have maximum 20 partners in a partnership. So minimum 2, obviously, partnership. So minimum 2, maximum 20. So the true test of partnership is a way for a lender to determine whether a group or association of people is a partnership firm or not. It also helps the lender recognize the partners of the firm and separate them from the third parties. The idea behind such a true test is to examine the relevant facts and determine the real relationship between partners and conclude from the presence of a partnership so as to safeguard the lender's interest. So how will the bank know the arrangement between the partners? How will they know the responsibility and role of partners in a partnership firm?
Through needs.
Through?
Needs, ma'am.
No. Needs. Why needs? The bank is not going to sit and analyze any.
Ma'am, partnership deed, with the help of partnership deed.
Correct. So partnership deed is an agreement between partners for doing that business. So bank needs to know what is the arrangement, who will be responsible, what kind of business they are doing, what will be the role and responsibilities. So the partnership deed is an important document for opening a partnership account. So as we've seen, partnership between 2 or more person, there have not agreement of partnership between them. The partnership obviously cannot arise out of family status or any operation of law. There has to be a specific arrangement between the partners, which you will know through the partnership deed. HUF is another a separate legal entity. So you can also have people wanting to open account for HUF, but HUF documentation is different because they are a different entity type. So if family member of a HUF are running a public business together, this is not a partnership because there is no agreement of partnership between them. The members of HUF are born into the HUF. Profit sharing is only a prima facie evidence of a partnership. The Act does not consider profit sharing as a conclusive evidence of partnership. So this is because there are cases of profit sharing that are contradictory to a partnership. Now, a new kind of partnership is limited liability partnership. In normal partnership, all partners have equal liabilities. So that means in case the partnership has a debt of 100 rupees, both partners, and there are two partners, both partners will be liable for 50 rupees each. So you don't know how much can be your liability in a partnership. If your partnership firm is continuously losing money or having loss, then your liabilities can mount up. To combat that, rather than opening a general partnership, you can have a limited liability partnership where the liability of each partner would be defined. So a limited liability partnership is an alternative corporate business vehicle that combines the flexibility structure of partnership with the benefit of its partner or members to limited liability. So partnership and limited liability partnership deals with two different acts. So partnerships are governed by Partnership Act 1932, whereas limited liability partnership, comparatively a newer entity governed by Limited Liability Partnership Act 2008 in India. Then you have private company. So we all know the difference between private company and public company. Bindu, can you tell me the difference? क्या difference है private company और public company में? हमने देखा है, we have seen it many times. We have understood private company and a public company. What is the difference between private company and public company? Bindu, can you tell me, please? No answer, Bindu. Okay, Akshay, can you tell us the difference between public limited company and private limited companies?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Tell the difference between public limited company and private limited.
Basically, a public limited company is that is listed well known in the stock market, ma'am.
Okay.
And whereas the private limited company, ma'am, is not listed in a stock market.
Okay. So that is the first difference. Public limited company is listed on the stock market, whereas private is not. So if it is listed on the stock exchange, what would be the benefit?
Ma'am, higher return.
No, it doesn't mean high return.
Ma'am, liquidity will be more.
Liquidity, yes. So it will give you liquidity. There'll be no problem or no restriction on liquidity. So private company, obviously, liquidity is limited, whereas public companies have very high liquidity.
Yeah.
Also, the number of partners in a private companies are limited to 200.
I think 250 partners can be.
It's 200. It's not 250. No, it's 200. 200.
And it's 200.
200. Okay. Okay.
200 and there is a
limitless contributions.
On public limited, it is no limit. Okay. So so private limited company is held by few individuals privately having a separate legal entity. In this, the shareholders cannot publicly trade shares. It restricts its number of shares to 50. However, now this has been changed to 200. Shareholders cannot sell their shares without the approval of other shareholders. If you remember, when we had looked at private equity, we had seen why companies need private equity and what kind of customers should invest in private equity. So Prerna, what kind of customers should invest in private equity?
Those who can hold their money for a long time.
Correct. And also people who can take high amount of risk.
Yes, ma'am.
So risk and obviously
High return.
time are important things for investing in private equity.
Ma'am, I have one doubt. In Partnership and limited partnership means in partnership there's a partnership deed in which we define a profit sharing ratio. So if the person who hold the more ratio, its liability were more, and the person who shares
No, it's not like that. It's not like that.
So ma'am, please
What?
just explain on this.
All
also.
partners are equally liable. Whatever they might be their profit sharing ratio, all partners are equally liable. And that is the difference. In limited
In terms
liability,
of ma'am, in terms of liabilities means
yeah, only liabilities. Yeah, in terms of liabilities.
okay.
Because profit hoga, so there will be no problem. No, everybody will share the profit. Problem is when there is a loss.
Okay.
So in normal partnership, the loss has to be taken care by all partners. Partners are equally liable. Whereas limited liability partnership, the partners will have a limited liability, or it will be predefined. You will know how much maximum liabilities you can have. That is the difference between them. Okay, yeah. So a private equity or private company, we have seen shareholders cannot sell their shares without the approval of other shareholders. It's a company which restricts the rights of members to transfer its shares, and it doesn't send the invitation to the public for subscription of its shares. Public company, as we know, they are listed on the stock exchange after they come up with the IPO or initial public offering. So a public company is a company that has permission to issue registered securities to the general public through an initial public offer, and it is traded on at least one stock exchange market. A public company is not authorized to begin its business operation just upon grant of certificate of incorporation. In order to eligible to run a public company, it should obtain another document called the trading certificate. So we know a bank has two kinds of products. One are the liability products, another are the asset products. So whatever kind of product the bank is selling to the customer, bank has to do a KYC. However, when bank is selling an asset product, the responsibility of the bank increases, because in that case, the bank also needs to ensure that the money comes back. So if you look at bank is what? Bank is where it borrows money from people who are surplus and lends it out to people who are in deficit. Okay, now, but if the person who has lent money to the bank wants to withdraw his money, the bank will have to give it. And if the person who's borrowed from the bank does not return, still the bank has to give it from its own pocket. So to avoid things like that, the bank has to be very careful while giving loans. So a clear understanding of a borrower's legal and constitutional validity is important to protect the lender's principal lent to the borrower. Credit risk. So can somebody tell me what is credit risk? We had seen it earlier as well. What is credit risk?
Ma'am, risk of
Loss of credit,
yeah.
loss of liabilities, or loss of loan.
So loan is not ability for
like
bank.
principal amount.
Yeah, correct.
Loss of
Credit
amount.
means loan. So in case the money which you have lent doesn't come back, it is your credit risk. So obviously the bank will ensure that the credit risk is minimized, or they don't give loan to people who where the probability of the money coming back is less. So credit risk arising out of legal ownership structure is extremely critical while considering an exposure on a constituent borrower. Lenders to examine and satisfy themselves on the ability of the business entity to raise and maintain sufficient equity to run the business as a going concern. Examine the management and auditors' disclosures and transparencies. So when a bank is lending, the bank should be aware of the latest regulatory guidelines issued by the banking regulator or SEBI or any other regulator, which will imply upon the ability of our lenders to lend. Lend only to the extent permitted by constitutional document or regulation. If you remember, one of the functions of RBI we had seen was credit rationing. Now you understand what would credit rationing mean. So RBI has guidelines or regulations saying that you cannot lend more than this to a particular sector, or you have to necessarily lend this much to this sector. So this way RBI ensures that all sectors are properly represented. And also in case the government has emphasis on a particular sector or wants a particular sector to grow, RBI would offer or RBI would make it mandatory for the banks to lend there. So RBI is also a credit controller. This is one function which we had seen as of the RBI, credit controller. That means RBI issues various guidelines regarding the loan which can be lent by the banks. So we've seen credit, we have understood credit risk. Credit risk or counterparty risk metric should clearly build in loan defaults, probabilities covering current and future risk to capital and earning committed of the constituent borrower. So let us understand knowing your customer. KYC, we heard it very often. Even when we go to buy a SIM card today, you need to do the KYC. KYC is also essential for all kind of financial service. Why do you think KYC would be important? Can you give me 2 reasons for the importance of KYC?
To know the person more.
Okay, to know the person.
And ma'am, to be the subscriber of that individual company or bank.
So the main problem or the main concern with banking or financial institution is money laundering. That means these institutions can be used to convert black money into white very easily. So KYC, basically the first logic or the first objective of KYC is to ensure that the institution is not used as a money laundering institution. And then also your documentation depends on the type of customer with whom you are forming a relationship. So therefore, know your customer is important. So customer is anyone who does a transaction with you. Even one transaction making a demand draft, but he still becomes a customer. So according to KYC policy, a customer is a person who has an account or has a business relationship with the bank. So a customer can be anybody with one on whom the business behalf of account is maintained. So if you look at high net worth individuals or people who are ultra rich, they might have an account with the bank, but they might not visit the bank to do their transaction. They'll send one of their representatives, but still they'll be your customer. Then beneficiary of transactions conducted by professional intermediaries such as stockbrokers, chartered accountants, solicitors, as permitted under the law. Then you will also have assignment to replicate live business environment. So any person or entity connected with financial transaction which can pose significant reputation or other risks to the bank, say a wire transfer or issue of high value demand draft as a single transaction. So any business you do with the bank, you need to be a customer. So though we know that KYC means that we need to have ID, address, proof of the customer, but KYC is much more. So KYC actually has 4 blocks. The first is customer acceptance policy. So each business should have a customer acceptance policy where they should clearly notify who can be their customers. So obviously people with a sketchy reputation or criminal background obviously cannot be the customers of the bank. So they should have it clearly mentioned in their customer acceptance policy. So customer acceptance policy talks about who can open an account with the bank. Then the second is customer identification policy, which we all know. As customers, we have already always do it, which is providing ID and address proof. Then customer verification. So when you do the customer verification, your identification is confirmed. But your KYC does not end here. In bank, your KYC does not end here. You also need to have transaction monitoring. Transaction monitoring would mean that you need to monitor the transaction of the customer. Now, if you have ever opened a bank account, you would see that the bankers ask a lot of information about you. Because whenever you do a transaction, they will verify whether it is in line with you or not. So if considering that there is one salaried person who comes and deposits 5,000 rupees every day in his account. There's another person who is a practicing doctor, and he comes and deposits 5,000 rupees every day in his account. Though the amount of transaction is same, the transaction is same. Just give me a moment. You know, the transaction is same, but it has a different outlooks. So a salaried person, you will expect that he will only have one credit transaction in the entire month, which would be his salary. But if he's coming and depositing money, there is some problem. Then if a doctor comes and deposits, or maybe a person who is running a small shop, he comes and deposits, that's okay, because they are into a business and they will be getting money every day. So if they come and deposit, it is still okay. So this is known as transaction monitoring. So once the bank has opened an account, doesn't mean that the responsibility of the bank is over. The bank continuously need to monitor the transaction to ensure that the transaction are in line with the customer. If they are not in line with the customer, obviously there is something really wrong.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, actually, I'm not getting that which topic I'm studying right now. Can you please tell
Sorry,
me? Ma'am, what is the chapter name? What we
retail
are
banking.
and we have studied it.
Huh?
And we have studied it.
You have completed it. We had started with corporate banking.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
I don't think
Ma'am,
No, ma'am.
we
Ma'am,
had completed banking. If you remember, we had completed introduction to banking.
Yes, ma'am.
Introduction of banking.
Yeah,
Ma'am, we are yet to complete this slide, ma'am.
yeah, I know, I remember.
ma'am, actually, in mail it was mentioned other.
I know in the mail it was written something else. But I want to complete this because that topic has to be covered after this one.
Okay. So I was a little confused. Okay, thank you.
So yeah, we will do that. But before that, we also have to do corporate banking. We have to finish this, do corporate banking, and then we will go to that. So
Okay.
that is similar topic. That's a similar topic. But first
Yeah.
we need to finish this. Okay. Anyways. Okay. The thing I want to emphasize here is KYC is not in banking, at least KYC is not over just by accepting the documents of the customer, taking the ID address proof of the customer. KYC is not over. KYC will be over only when it is actually an ongoing process. KYC will never be over. It is an ongoing process, and it will continue until the customer has closes his account, you know. And then risk management. Risk management is whenever a customer opens an account with you, you classify him as high risk, low risk, or medium risk. Now, what risk are we talking here when the customer is opening an account? What is the risk we are talking about? And I'm not saying he's taking a loan, he's opening an account. So what can be the risk you can think of?
Customer, in terms of money, black money or
Correct. It can be money laundering.
yes, ma'am.
Money laundering. So, so the risk is money laundering risk. So you'll talk to the customer, find out his business, find out about him, and then classify him as high, medium, or low risk. So KYC will continue. So a customer can become so you need to do, know him. You need to talk to him, keep in touch with him. Maybe a low risk customer becomes a high risk customer. So for example, today I'm working in India. I have a known source of income. I am doing service. I have a known source of income. So I'm low risk. But tomorrow my company transfers me to the US. Then I become a medium risk because now you can't meet me every day. You can't interact with me every day. So I become a medium risk customer. So the risk profile will change. However, the bank keeps to be continuously updating the customer's risk profile. So KYC, as we understand, ID and address proof is only one step of KYC. KYC is a long drawn process where the bank should have a customer acceptance policy, the customer identification policy, which is very familiar to us, then also transaction monitoring and risk management. So you need to do a CDD, which is customer due diligence. Customer due diligence will mean that you have completed all the checks and balances which had to be done based on the customer profile. So a banker will never open an account until he meets you, until he speaks with you. So prospective customers, information required for the KYC collected from customers and forward to KYC compliance team. They will do the CIP. CIP is customer identification policy. Then based on that, they will do a CDD or customer due diligence. If the customer is very risky, then they will do a enhanced due diligence. So EDD means enhanced due diligence. CDD means customer due diligence. So account will be open only after all checks have been conducted and approval of from AML compliance officer has been obtained. AML is anti-money laundering. So as we were talking, when a customer opens an account, the biggest risk is money laundering. So we have to take steps to minimize it. Then KYC does not end only on the customer. Yeah.
Ma'am, so I have one doubt, ma'am. So,
yeah,
ma'am, you were saying like for the customer due diligence, there's something like checks and balances. What checks do you mean here, ma'am?
Checks means what is his source of income? Does he have a PAN
Okay.
card? Have you met him? If it is a joint account, have you met all the
Okay.
holders? Have they signed in front of you?
Okay.
Is the customer giving you a check or he's opening the account in cash? If he's giving a check, the risk will reduce. Because you can obviously track it.
Okay.
But if the customer is opening the account in cash, then it is difficult. He might have murdered somebody, got some money, and came to your bank to open the account.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have to be careful.
Okay, like you before opening the, I mean, if a customer has opened the account, the bank should know how we got to refer this customer, their details, and all those things.
Right.
Okay. So it's basically like an employment check or something like that, what we do in offices before, once we are onboarded.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not that stringent. Obviously, then other customers.
Yeah, it's similar to that.
But yeah,
right,
basic checks have to be done. Correct.
Yeah. Ma'am, do banks go for criminal verification checks?
No, they don't do a criminal verification check. But if it is a known criminal, then obviously the bank will not open an account.
Okay.
So they will not go for each customer, and with the kind of targets these days banks take to open accounts, they will not do a criminal check.
Okay.
But if somebody is a known criminal, or has a dubious history, then the bank obviously will not open an account. Yeah. Because for the bank, the risk of money laundering is very high, and I'm sure you must be reading. These days, RBI is levying very huge penalties on banks for not following procedures or for not being KYC compliant. So the banks will ensure that they don't open any dubious account.
Okay. Ma'am, and one more doubt, ma'am. So what is the difference between enhanced due diligence and customer due diligence?
Okay. So CDD is for people with low risk. So for example, there's a government servant.
Okay.
Okay. The risk of money laundering is low.
Okay. Yeah.
A government servant, because if he does money laundering, not only will he lose that money, also if there's a problem with his job, the government will kick him out.
Yeah.
Right. So these kind of customers are low risk customers.
Okay.
So we will just take ID address. But for example, if you look at, you have an NRI, a
Okay.
non-resident customer, the risk automatically rises because you cannot meet him or you can't contact him very easily. So you will ask for more documents. So an enhanced due diligence will mean to know more about the customer. So low risk customers, even if you don't take too many documents, it's okay, because anyways he's low risk.
Okay.
As the risk increases, you have to take more documents from the customer to ensure that he will not do any kind of money laundering or illegal stuff with the bank. So it, even terrorist financing is one very what to say, a serious crime.
Yeah.
For anything, for any kind of terrorist activity, you need money.
Yes, ma'am.
So somebody can open the account with you and then use that money for terrorist financing. Use that account for terrorist financing.
Okay, ma'am. That is the reason why now currently all the countries, especially IMF, has blocked, freeze the account for Taliban's, right?
Yeah, correct. So even US is so really scared after 9/11. They are these things have come. These things have become more serious after 9/11 because a lot of money is used for all these terrorist activities. Wherever these terrorist activities happen, even the ones which happened in Bombay 10 years back, 11 years back, needed money, and some accounts would have been used.
Yes, ma'am.
So for that, the bank has to ensure that the account is not used for any kind of illegal activity. It can be for smuggling also. It can be for any kind of legal extortion. It can be for any kind of illegal activity. So bank should know. Bank is comfortable opening the account when they know the source of funds. So you'll see salaried people, very easy to open bank account. Others become little difficult.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. It's clear.
Yeah. Okay. So a structured and comprehensive CDD or customer due diligence process help predict expected behavior and flag unexpected behavior. So therefore, we will see the account opening form also. You'll see it is very comprehensive. It asks a lot of questions to the customer. So this is just to ensure that the transaction done by the customer are in line with his account type. So for example, I have opened an account of as a salaried person, and I have said that my salary is around 50,000, and then I get a credit of 5 lakhs in my account one day. From where has it come? Okay, it might be suspicious. It is a suspicious transaction. It might be illegal or it can be illegal. So probably somebody has gifted me that 5 lakhs, or I've got a bonus. So in that case, if there is anything unexpected, the bankers need to speak with the customer to find out what is the issue. Yeah. Anyways, so flag unexpected behavior. So unexpected behavior of the customer will require increased scrutiny. Then you will update your customer due diligence, and also file a suspicious behavior to be reported through the suspicious activity report. So if you find anything suspicious, it has to be reported. So we had seen one of the process for KYC is customer risk categorization. A customer can be classified as low risk, medium risk, or high risk. So whenever there is a known source of income, in those cases, customer is low risk customer because this is from where the money will come from. However, if it is unclear, obviously the risk keep on increasing. Also, lesser amount of money will have lower risk, higher amount of money will have higher risk. So if an HNI comes to open an account and a farmer comes to open an account, who has more risk? Who will have more risk?
Farmer.
HNI, what
HNI, farmer will have lower risk, no, because he will have hardly any money. So the higher the amount of money, the higher is the risk. Okay. So low risk customers are profiled for each new customers based on risk categorization. Individual or business entities whose identity and source of wealth business cycle can be easily identified are low risk, and wherever you can't do this, those are high risk. So then customer posing a higher than average risk to the bank should be categorized as medium or high risk depending on the customer's background, the nature and location of activity, the country of origin, the sources of funds, and the client profile. So wherever the customer is categorized as medium or high risk, you will do a enhanced due diligence. That means you'll try to know the customer better. So these are some high risk customers. Anybody with a huge amount of money would be classified as high risk. So bullion dealers, people who deal in uh, expensive metals like silver and gold. Non-resident customers, because you might not be able to meet them face to face. High net worth individuals. Then trust, charities, NGO. Because trust, charities, and NGO, it is difficult to know their business. So they work on various aids, and you don't know whether these aids are
Legal or illegal.
legal or not.
Yeah.
Then or organizations receiving donations, company having closed family shareholdings or beneficial ownership, because in this case again you don't know actually if it is actually a business or it is more like misusing the money. Then just give me a moment. Then firms with sleeping partners. Now, sleeping partners are partners which are not very active in the business. So it could be that they are just trying to convert their illegal money into legal money. So sleeping partners, firms with sleeping partners will have enhanced due diligence. Politically exposed person of foreign origin. Then those who with dubious reputation, as per this is what so you're asking about criminal verification now, that the bank will not do, but yes, dubious people with dubious reputation as per public information, bank will not open the account. And non face-to-face customers, usually these are HNIs, and in that case the bank will have to do enhanced due diligence. Then you have the customer identification policy, which we are very aware of, which is about taking the ID and address proof. Now, ID would be anything with photograph and your signature and issued by a competent authority. So CIP stands for Customer Identification Policy, where the bank needs to get the ID and address proof of the customer at the time of account opening. Onboarding means on account opening. So banks policy defines CIP when an onboarding a customer at the time of transaction, when the bank has a doubt about authenticity or veracity or adequacy of previously obtained customer identification data. So this is also, again, as you've seen, KYC is not a one-time process. It is ongoing. So even if somebody comes to do a transaction, at that time also the bank might ask them to show their ID and address. So customer identification means identifying customer and verifying his identity by using reliable, independent source documents, data, or information. Due diligence based on the risk profile of the customer in compliance with the extant guidelines in place. Now, KYC process for customer identification is risk-based. That means higher the risk, more documents you will ask. Then it has to be formally documented, and it's a part of AML program. So the biggest risk to the bank when a customer is opening account is money laundering. So to combat money laundering, the bank has a AML policy in place or follows the AML process.
Ma'am, what is AML?
Will somebody tell AML?
Anti-money laundering.
Oh,
Anti-money laundering. Okay. So firms should provide adequate notice to new customers on information required to verify their identities. It's not only for the bank, even if you're investing through a broker or you are buying some shares, all financial institutions will do a KYC. So such information must be given during the onboarding process before the account is opened. Minimum requirement of CIP information to be collected from individual and non-individual customer. So notify customer, gather information, verify information. So a lot of time the banks will check your PAN number on the site. Also, they will ask you to self-attest the document. It tells you that assures the bank in case there is something problem in future, the customer will be responsible and not the bank. So a firm need not establish the accuracy of every element of information obtained from the customer. However, it must verify enough information to form a reasonable belief that is knows the true identity of the customer. Firms are required to screen their new customers against OFAC and other sanction list. So these are, the word after, especially after 9/11. I hope all of you are aware of 9/11.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah? So 9/11, we had a attack on the Twin Towers in New York. After that, and all the countries have come together to combat terrorism, and therefore they keep on exchanging information about these kind of groups. Okay, so when a bank is opening an account, they are expected to run through the list to know if it is not present.
And what is OFAC?
It stands for Office of Foreign Assets Control. It is actually a department of the US government treasury, of the US treasury. So this is actually an information provided by the US about these trade sanctions or foreign policy. Basically, it means whenever you're opening an account, not for individual customers, obviously, they're different, but especially if you're opening an account for institutions or NGOs, you need to run through the list of information provided, because this contains information about people running a terrorist group, for example. Obviously, a bank should not open an account for them. Yeah. So firms are required also. The firms need to create documentation of the accounts, the information collected. So firms are required to retain any information and data obtained for identifying customers. So they need to maintain records. So customer identification can be documentary. That means involves comparing information provided by customers against official government issued, state issued, or reputed agency issued documentation, registration, or licenses. So if you go with your college ID, most of the banks will not open your account, because they are not, they cannot be verified. But if you take your PAN card or your Aadhaar card, bank will accept the document and open your account. And sometimes they also might do non-documentary, where the banks have field visits and they go and do the verification. So this can be non-documentary verification. It involves validating the customer identity using third-party or other documents reports. In case the risk is high, then you will have a enhanced due diligence. So enhanced due diligence for higher risk customers, especially critical to understanding their anticipated transaction and implementing a suspicious activity monitoring system. Higher risk customers and their transactions should be reviewed more closely at account opening and more frequently throughout the term of the relationship with the bank. So I don't know how many of you are aware of re-KYC. Anybody has heard about re-KYC? Your parents talking about re-KYC?
Ma'am.
What is that?
Ma'am, if our account gets locked, then we go.
Okay. It is not. Yeah.
When we reopened our account.
Not exactly reopening.
Or updating.
Updating. It is more of updating. Re-KYC is updating. So this is the information which the bank has taken from you while opening the account. So some time would have lapsed, things would have changed. So therefore, the bank needs to get in touch with you again to get your documents. So now re-KYC also depends on risk profile. Higher the risk, earlier would be the re-KYC. So some customers might have to give their documents every 2 years because they might lie in the medium to high risk customers, whereas low risk customers, the bank might ask after 5 years. So your re-KYC is also dependent on the risk profile of the customer. And obviously high risk customers will have a enhanced due diligence. So higher risk customers and their transactions should be reviewed more closely at account opening and more frequently throughout the term of their relationship with the bank. So wherever the beneficial owner or the person who's actually beneficiary is other than the person who's opening the account, in that case, the bank has to be all the more careful. So trust, nominee and fiduciary accounts, that means account held on somebody else's behalf, certain corporate accounts, accounts opened by intermediaries, politically exposed person, non-face-to-face, correspondent banking, introduced business, all these are high-risk customers, and therefore they would want, the bank would want to do enhanced due diligence for them. A certain time, companies or firm are being used by individual as front for maintaining accounts with bank. So examine the control structure of entity, determine the source of funds. So for bank, source of fund is very important. So if the source of fund is legal, then no problem. But if it is spurious, then the bank can also land up into trouble. So identify the natural person who will be in controlling interest and who comprises the management. And these requirements may be moderated according to the risk perception. That is the case of public company. It will not be necessary to identify all the shareholders. Also, if you have to open account of private company and public company, which company will have lesser risk?
Private company. No, ma'am, public company.
Public company.
Public company, because it is regulated by SEBI as well, no?
Yes, ma'am.
It has more regulator. So regulations are very strong. This would be less.
Yes.
So client accounts opened by intermediaries. So intermediaries are people who are acting on somebody's behalf, or people who are acting, acting as a bridge between two people. So when client account opened by professional intermediary on behalf of a single client, that client must be identified. The fund held by intermediaries are not commingled at the bank, and that there are sub-accounts, each of them attributable to a beneficial owner. All the beneficial owners must be identified. Where the bank rely on customer due diligence done by an intermediary, satisfy that intermediary is regulated and supervised and has adequate system to place to comply with the KYC regulation. So it becomes actually a double-edged sword for the people sitting at the counter or people working in the bank, because at one hand they have targets of account opening, on the other they cannot just open the account. They have to do customer due diligence and sometimes enhance customer due diligence to open the account. But this is compliance. This is what we need to do. Then non-face-to-face customers. So when you're opening an account, it is a mandate or it's a requirement that you meet the customer personally. But there can be some cases where meeting the customer face-to-face might not be possible. So for example, NRIs. NRIs don't stay in India. They're abroad, but they want to send money. This is business for the bank, right? So in that case, the bank has to be extra careful. right? So bank cannot meet the customer face to face. So they instruct the customer to go and do his verification at Indian Embassy, for example, or the Consulate of India. Okay, so that somebody has actually met the customer to avoid opening of Benami accounts. Obviously, risk of non-face-to-face customer is high, very high. So customer telephonic and electronic banking assist in accounts being operated by banks for customers without the need for customer to visit the bank branch. Apart from applying the CIP, that is customer identification policy, adopt specific and adequate procedures to mitigate the high risk involved. So for that, the bank would want probably certification of all document presented. First payment affected through customer's account with another bank, which in turn adheres to similar KYC standards. So whenever a customer is opening a second account, it is obviously less risky because he has already opened an account with another bank that has done the KYC for that particular bank. So it becomes easier for the next bank to open the account. Cross-border customers are customers who don't stay in India. So in case of cross-border customers, may have to rely on third-party certification introduction. In such case, third party is regulated and supervised entity and has adequate KYC system in place. So the example I was giving you, the bank asking the customer to identify himself at the Indian consulate, will give authentication to the customer, that the customer exists, because obviously Indian consulate is a public undertaking, it's under the government. So it is authenticated. So if you are looking at proprietary concern, I hope you are clear on proprietary concerns. What are proprietary concerns, or what kind of business are proprietary concerns? Hello.
Sole proprietors and
I'm sorry?
Different proprietors.
Different proprietors. Can somebody put it in a better way? What would proprietary concern mean?
Like different businessman, different business accounts.
Business run by one person. Proprietary
Yes,
concerns are business run by
proprietorship.
one person.
Ma'am, proprietor is basically the business person who's running
Yeah,
the
only
business.
one person. Only
Yeah,
one person involved in the business. So personal and business funds co-mingle. There are few regulatory controls, so the risk is high. High volumes of transaction in the account, and bookkeeping and audit is an issue. We have seen there is no requirement for a proprietary concern to have a standard of account maintenance and audit. They're not required. They're not required by any kind of compliance, So it's a issue. It's an issue. Then money mule transaction. Now, what is a mule? Anybody is aware what is a mule? Anyways, I don't know in any other language, but Hindi में mule को खच्चर कहते हैं. And why a खच्चर is used? You guys understand खच्चर ना? जो लोग यूपी के उनको तो खच्चर पता होगा क्या?
For carrying the commodities from one place
Correct,
to another
correct.
place.
So mule is used for carrying
Transporting
heavy weights.
purpose, ma'am.
Yeah, transporting purpose and heavy weights, right? इसको हम लोग बोलते हैं बोझा ढोने के लिए, right? So money mule transactions are transaction where using somebody else to carry your money. And why will you want to hide your money? Because obviously it is not legal. Yeah. So in a money mule transaction, an entity with a bank account recruited to receive checks, deposit or wire transfer, and then transfer these funds to account held on behalf of another entity minus a certain commission payment. So the mule actually is not the person who is responsible. He just acts as a bridge for transfer. He's just carrying forward the transaction. He's only benefited with a small percentage of the money which is being transacted. This you can easily relate to demonetization. All of you would have seen demonetization. What happened in demonetization? The notes were
Banned.
yeah, and then people who were hiding this money, what they had to do, they had to deposit it in the bank. If they
Yes,
deposit in the bank, then they will be asked where this money has come from. So they try to find out a money mule, usually a servant working for them or a subordinate. And what they did, they asked them to route it
where
through
the
his
money
bank
comes
account.
from.
Yeah, and then pay a small percentage to him and then take the money back from him. So they were money mules. So people, basically the link between two people to carry out an illegal activity or to route the money without their name coming into the picture. So they are money mules. So money mules may be recruited by spam emails, advertisements, or genuine recruiter website, social networking site, instant messaging, and advertising in newspaper. So sometimes, you get these things that claim this money and all that stuff. So these might be money mule transactions. When caught, these money mules often have their bank accounts suspended, causing financial loss, apart from facing likely legal action for being part of a fraud. Most often times, address and contact details of such mules are found to be fake or not up to date, making it difficult for enforcement agencies to locate the account holder. So therefore, KYC is important. So key KYC documents, actually only two. One is a document evidencing the identity and the other is address. Identity to know in whose account this account is opened, and address in case you want to contact the customer. And if it is a business entity, then obviously documenting evidence location of the business. So documents evidencing identity, document evidencing registration, and document evidencing location of a business. So when we are doing KYC for an individual customer, you have to do KYC only at one level. That means the KYC of the person or the individual who is opening the account. But when we are opening account for a company or a business or a partnership, you have to do KYC of the firm as well. Okay, so this is the major difference between KYC of individuals and KYC of firms. In KYC of firms, you have to do the KYC at two levels. One as the KYC of the firm itself, and second is the KYC of the person involved with the fund, or person representing the firm. So for example, I am the authorized signatory of XYZ, and I go to open an account with the bank will first tell me to provide the documentation of XYZ and then ask me to provide my individual documents. So for a company or for a legal entity, KYC has to be done at two levels. One is the KYC of the legal entity and second is the KYC of the officials of that company. So therefore, document evidencing identity and address of business owners. Okay, so we have seen for individual customers, we need ID and address. But what is the ID and address of a company? Now, company ID is the certificate of incorporation. Certificate of incorporation is just like your date of birth. So when somebody has to form a company, they have to go and register it with ROC or Registrar of Company. ROC will then issue a certificate to the company saying that your company is registered, and the certificate, this is the certificate of incorporation. Okay. So for a company, certification of incorporation is the first document which is required. Then you will also need the memorandum and articles of association. Now, why will you need memorandum and articles of association? Anyone?
association. And article of association, company's issued authorized capital and company's name, partners, details, everything was mentioned.
Okay, so certificate of incorporation is like given by the registrar of company, but memorandum and articles are prepared by the company where they talk about number of shareholders, capital and all that stuff, and therefore you will take the memorandum and articles as well. So these are two documents which are very important for opening an account of the company. One is a certificate of incorporation or a certificate which tells you that this company has been formed and is registered with the registrar of company. And second is the memorandum and articles. Memorandum will tell the scope of business of the company, and article of association will tell the and articles will tell you about the power of the employees and also memorandum and articles are also important documents while opening the account of the company. Another document is the board resolution. Now, company is a legal entity, so people will take decisions on behalf. So we need to have a board resolution which tells you that the company is entitled to open an account with the bank, right? So you'll need a resolution of board of directors to open an account and identification of those who have authority to operate this. So this I would explain that when you're opening an account for a legal entity, you not only require the document of the legal entity, but also the document are required for the people involved with this company. Then you need to have the power of attorney granted to its managers, officer, or employee to transact business on its behalf. Also, copy of PAN allotment letter, a copy of telephone bills. So PAN is a requirement for opening any kind of account, but for a legal entity, obviously you'll have to take a PAN in the name of the legal entity. Now, based on this, now tell me what documents you will require for opening of an account of a partnership firm. So we have seen the KYC of a company where we need the certificate of incorporation, the articles and memorandum, the board resolution, and the KYC of the authorized signatories. What will you need for the partnership firm?
Partnership
Okay,
deed,
good. Then
partners, individuals, documents.
Yeah. Anything else?
Ma'am, any official document?
Certificate of incorporation of company registered under Companies Act. Oh, sorry,
No.
Partnership Act.
No. For partnership, we don't have a certificate of incorporation. And there's also not a requirement of the partnership to be registered. Although, banks in today's time do not open account of firms which are not registered, but registration is not a mandate. Okay. So registration of partnership, partnership deed, and KYC of partners. And here, this is the difference. In a company, you take the KYC of only the people who are authorized to handle the accounts of the company. In partnership, you have to do the KYC of all partners, irrespective of their status. Even if they are simple, even if they are sleeping partners, you'll have to do the KYC of them as well. So registration certificate, if registered, so it is not mandatory. Partnership deed, power of attorney, if granted to partner or employee of the firm to transact business on its behalf. Any officially valid document identifying the partner and person holding the power of attorney and their addresses. Telephone bill in the name of the firm or partners. This is to know the address of the partnership firm. The existence of the partnership firm would be evident by the partnership deed and address from the telephone bill. Now, different countries can have different KYC guidelines. So in USA, for example, okay, these are availability of key KYC document identification information. So this is information available to everyone. In India, can you think of what is available? As of now, there is nothing available, but we are working on, Aadhaar number and PAN card to be available for checking. So what it means is after you've completed or you have collected the documents from the customer, you need to cross-check it with the information available with the government department. PAN card you can check. In India, PAN card still you can check. Right? So in US, it is easily available. So you have the secure, this is social security number, the TIN registration number. All documents are available in the public domain. So highly evolved KYC checks, risk-based verification. US regulations do not specify independent verification of identification. Then in UK, availability high, information based on registration, TIN highly computerized environment, highly evolved KYC checks, verification through in-house checks and risk-based. So all countries we don't need to know, but India, as we know, systems are not so robust. We might not get all the information, but at least PAN card can be checked. Now, politically exposed persons or PEP are very risky customers, okay, because servicing them is a big thing. Also, the account can be used for for money laundering or diversions of funds. So we have to be very careful when we are opening account of politically exposed people. So who are politically exposed people? Heads of states or government, senior politicians, senior government, judicial military offices, senior executive of state-owned corporation, important political parties. So politically exposed person are individuals who or have been entrusted with prominent public functions. Accounts of PEP are dealt with extra caution in EDD applies across all international banking geography. PEP accounts endure enhanced transaction monitoring procedures, including their family members. So here is a list of politically exposed people. So the list is quite exhaustive. So members of parliament, heads of state, ministers, Supreme Court, Constitution Court, high level judicial bodies, high ranking officers, ambassadors, senior executive of state-run enterprises, Court of Auditors, international sports group committee members, and parents, siblings, spouse, partners of all these people. So who according to you is politically exposed out of these three? Do you recognize them?
Only one.
You recognize only one, okay. I think he is also an actor of Indian origin, and this looks like politically exposed person. So obviously Priyanka Chopra is not a politically exposed person. So bank has to gather sufficient information on any person, customer of this category, intending to establish a relationship, and checks all the information available on the person in public domain. Banks verify the identity of person and seek information about the sources of funds before accepting the politically exposed person as a customer. The decision to open an account of PEP taken at a senior level. Then foreign exchange. Actually, foreign exchange is also very risky. So anybody who has foreign exchange becomes risky, and probably you'll have to do an enhanced due diligence. Foreign exchange can mean deposit, credit, and balances payable in foreign currency. Drafts, traveler's checks, letter of credit, or bill of exchange expressed or drawn in Indian currency, but payable in a foreign currency. Drafts, traveler's checks, letter of credit, or bill of exchange drawn by banks, institutions, or person outside India may be payable in Indian currency. Foreign security means any security in form of shares, stocks, bonds, debentures, or any other instrument denominated or expressed in foreign currency, and includes securities expressed in foreign currency, but their redemption of any form or return, such as internet or dividend, is payable in Indian currency. Import, which is grammatical variation and cognate expression, means bringing into India any goods or services. So those can be politically exposed. So I think we will take a break here. And then we'll start with introduction to banking. We will see more about the KYC of all customers. So we'll look at the asset product process and deposit product process. So what are the difference between asset products and deposit products? What are asset products?
Asset products of the bank are the loans which it provides and
Correct.
the
Correct.
products he had with the customers.
Correct. So deposit means liability for the bank. So deposit
Yes.
product is the money which the customer keeps with the bank. Now in normal everyday transaction also, when somebody gives us money, we are a little less careful, but when somebody asks us money, we are more careful. So when the bank is giving loan, the bank will do a very strict KYC. In banking, obviously, if it's a low risk customer, then bank will not be that much strict. Okay, so I think we'll take a break at this point and join back at 4:45. Okay, 4:45. It's almost 4:30. Join back by 4:45.
क्या हुआ? कोई आया है क्या?
Whose mic is unmuted? Please mute your mic. Okay, so let's continue. So we all understand assets and deposit product. Assets are the loan for the bank and deposit products are the deposit fee, are the liability products, products, or the money which we keep in the bank in form of saving account, current account, or fixed deposit. So what do you think would be the difference between the KYC of deposit products and asset products? What would be the main difference between the KYC process of asset products and deposit products?
In asset products, KYC mainly done, main focus on the returns, how the person is able to return.
Correct.
And in deposits, we are focusing where he earning its money. It's that means there's no case of money laundering.
Correct. So deposit product, the risk is money laundering and frauds. But asset product, the risk is also credit risk. That means the money not coming back. So bank will ensure that the person is earning enough money to be able to return. So in asset product, there also be a requirement of a document which tells your earning. Okay. In deposit product, the bank might ask you how much you earn and all this stuff. But in asset products, the bank is specifically looking at a document which tells them how much you earn. And there's a joke in the banking industry that the bank will give you a loan only if you prove that you don't need it. So you have a lot of money, only then the bank will give you money, give you a loan. So bank can give different kind of loans. They can be secured loans or unsecured loans. Secured loans are loans where the bank has a specific asset backing it, whereas unsecured loans are loans wherein there is no asset. So out of the 5 loans you see here, which of these loans will be unsecured?
Ma'am, education loans.
Correct. Education is loan is unsecured.
Unsecured.
Because yeah. Then which else?
And ma'am,
Business loans.
Now, business loans can be secured and unsecured. Usually, business loans are secured, but as I was telling you, there is a specific scheme by the government where the government had given unsecured business loan to first-time entrepreneurs. Apart from
Car
usually
loans.
business loans will be secured.
Ma'am, home loans.
Home loans are unsecured.
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am, secured loans. Ma'am.
They are secured loans.
Yeah.
Home loans are secured. They're secured by the security of the house. No? If the customer does not return, then the bank
Okay.
will recover the money by selling off. Then car loan, is it secured or unsecured?
Ma'am,
Secured, ma'am.
something less secure.
It is secured, but yeah, less secure than home loan. What about personal loan?
Unsecured loan, ma'am.
Unsecured, ma'am. No, secure, ma'am.
नहीं
Personal loan is
unsecured.
secured. See, Bindu is talking now. Personal loan, she works for the loan department, no, Bindu?
Yes,
आप
ma'am.
लोग ये काम करते हो ना? तो personal loan unsecured है because you do not have any collateral. The bank doesn't even ask you what is that you need to do with the personal loan, and there is no asset created by a personal loan. So personal loan can be taken for hospitalization, for marriage, for holiday. It can be taken for various reasons. And no asset is created by personal loan for the customer.
But my bank first need any guarantee to provide you loan. On what basis bank will give us loan?
Personal loan is given on your personal credibility.
As ma'am?
So for example, I hold an account with HDFC Bank and
Okay,
I've
ma'am.
taken a personal loan from HDFC Bank. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
They keep on sending me reminders to enhance my personal loan limit because I get a certain amount of deposit in my account every month.
Ma'am, through
That
credit
is their
cards.
security. Huh?
Through credit cards, ma'am, this loan is given.
No, it's not given through credit card. Credit card is also a kind of unsecured loan because the bank does not ask you for any documents. You know, they don't ask you for any collateral.
Okay, ma'am.
So personal loan basically is given on the credibility of the customer. If the person works for a good company, if that person is educated, then the bank will give personal.
Salaried person को हम देते हैं personal loan.
Okay, Bindu, tell us about this. बताइए क्या क्राइटेरिया होता है पर्सनल लोन और क्रेडिट कार्ड का?
मैम पर्सनल लोन हम सैलरीड पर्सन को देते हैं जो क्या बोलते हैं गवर्नमेंट होते हैं.
Okay. सिर्फ गवर्नमेंट को देते हैं, बाकी किसी को नहीं देते हैं?
नहीं मैम, पर्सनल लोन हम सिर्फ सैलरीड पर्सन को देते हैं. बिजनेस लोन हम क्या बोलते हैं बिजनेसमैन को.
सैलरीड वो गवर्नमेंट को या प्राइवेट में नहीं करता?
नहीं प्राइवेट में देते हैं जो सैलरीड जिनकी सैलरी आती है.
मतलब मंथली ट्रांजैक्शन उनके अकाउंट से अगर हो रहा है देन यू विल प्रोवाइड लोन.
नहीं, अगर जिसका सीसी अकाउंट है, करंट अकाउंट है, तो उसको हम पर्सनल लोन नहीं देते हैं, उसको हम बिजनेस लोन देते हैं.
Okay.
So the purpose of the loan is also important for the bank. You know, so bank does not give loan just for just like that.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
ma'am, for home loan, I understand that it is a secured loan.
Mhm.
Then what about educational and business loans, ma'am?
Now, secured loans are any loan where the bank has an asset, obviously belonging to the customer, which can be sold off to recover that money.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it true for home loans?
Yes, ma'am. It's definitely true.
In education loan, do you have any kind of asset?
Not
No.
really. Yeah, not
No.
really.
So education loan is unsecured.
Then
Unsecured.
what about business loans? Ma'am?
Now business loan, government of India.
मैम बिजनेस लोन दो लोगों को हम दे सकते हैं. अगर डॉक्टर है वो सैलरीड आती है तो हम उसको बिजनेस कर सकते हैं, बट अगर प्राइवेट है उसका खुद का फर्म है तो हम उसको पर्सनल बिजनेस लोन देंगे, बट उसके फर्म के आईटीआर के साथ. बट डॉक्टर अगर गवर्नमेंट है तो हम उसको बिजनेस लोन देंगे पर वो सैलरीड है.
Okay, let me explain to you business loan. The purpose is setting up a business or expanding. So when a customer is setting up a business, he will need loan for buying his fixed asset. That becomes secure. So for example, I am starting a restaurant. I will have an infrastructure. I will buy a place to start my restaurant. So the bank will have a charge on these. So it will be a secured loan. However, to promote entrepreneurship or to promote business, Government of India came up with a specific loan known as Mudra loan. This is the name I was getting stuck with. Mudra loan is a loan which is an unsecured loan. It is for business, but it is unsecured. The amount of the loan is also only up to 10 lakhs. So Mudra loan can be taken as an unsecured loan. So business loan, depending on the volume and the kind of business, can be taken as unsecured or secured. If the business has created some assets and the bank has a charge on it, it will be a secured loan. In case it is given without any asset, it's an unsecured loan.
Yes, ma'am.
Does it answer your question, Infant?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Yes.
if I'm opening a restaurant, then my asset what I'm going to keep with the bank will be my land.
Yeah. It can be your land, your machinery, your furniture.
Okay.
All that will be hypothecated to the bank.
Okay.
So in case the customer does not pay, the bank will have the right to sell it off and recover the money.
Okay.
Ma'am, then about car loans, so will it come under secured or unsecured? Because
It is. If you sell a car, even if you sell a second-hand car, don't you get money?
yeah, I will get a money.
So it is a secured loan. So therefore, you will see that bank will never, usually will not give you the entire amount of car. The entire value of car. They will only give. I'm sorry?
Because of the value of the asset.
Yes, because the value would depreciate. Okay, so usually banks will not give you 100% value of the car as loan. Anyways. So personal loan we've seen. Now the interest rates are dependent on the risk. Higher the risk, higher would be the interest percentage which will be charged. Now personal loan and home loan. Which is riskier?
Personal loans.
Personal loan. So obviously personal loan will attract a high rate of interest.
Yes, ma'am.
So as the name suggests, loan received as personal could be utilized by recipient of any requirement. So here the bank does not ask you any purpose. So it can be for marriage, home improvement, travel, or any miscellaneous expenses. These days, credit card companies give the applicant an option to apply for a loan for up to extent of their credit limit. This is processed online, where the applicant can choose an EMI and duration of repayments, and a check will be delivered to them within 3 to 4 days. No question asked. All they need is a credit card. So if you look at, banks also have a target, no? Banks, if they accept deposit and don't lend it, that's not profitable for them. So they are also looking at people who will take loans. So they keep on finding people. And obviously, the other thing is also true that they have to look at people who will be able to return their money. So from their database, they figure out people who have regular salaries and who will be able to pay out the money, pay the money back. So they give pre-approved offers to people.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Insta pre-approved data offer.
Yes. Yeah. That kind of loan is given because the bank has to utilize the money they have borrowed. So, home loan, they are the lowest rate of interest.
Yes, ma'am. 6.5.
Yes. And usually take a very long duration. So, home loans can be up to 30 years now. You can take a home loan for 30 years. Whereas personal loan can be taken maximum for 5 years. Then car loans, less risky than personal loan because you have a collateral, but more risky than home loan because the car depreciate at a higher value. So the interest rates would be somewhere between personal loan and interest rates.
Yes, ma'am.
Personal loan and home loans. So these days, automobile companies have ventured into finance by setting up separate subsidy companies solely for this purpose. They are able to offer the best interest rates, often with zero interest rate schemes. They usually undercut any bank's finance terms since they are able to eat into the profit margin of the underlying vehicle. So a lot of time companies, so for example, you have Bajaj Finance. If you want to buy a Bajaj bike, you can easily take a loan from Bajaj Finance. So they cut into their profit margins to give that loan to the customer. Then education loan, just like personal loans, the rate of interest is really high for education loan because they are unsecured. However, banks will give a grace period before EMI or payment or restart sum. So the uniqueness about education loan is that education loan, usually you don't have to pay any EMI until your education is complete. So education loan is not given for everything, you know, education loan is given for graduation and post graduation. So your EMI will usually begin after you have completed that course. So just like personal loan, the rate of interest is really high for education loan. However, banks will give a grace period before EMI or repayment start. Business loan, interest rate is really high for business loan, mostly because of the risk involved. Now, before, loan is, not as a simple process as an account opening. You know, for loan, you have to apply, then there is a credit appraisal in which the bank decides whether the loan should be given or not. And then only the bank will give. So there are various stages of a loan. So Renu, can you tell us the various stages of loan because you are in this field and you've been processing loan? So can you tell us the various stages of loan? लोन के क्या क्या स्टेजेस होते हैं रेनू? बिंदु, सॉरी बिंदु.
Yes, ma'am.
स्टेजेस क्या क्या होते हैं लोन के?
मैम वो तो अमाउंट पे हम डिसाइड करते हैं ना.
अमाउंट पे क्यों डिसाइड करेंगे? सबको एप्लीकेशन देना पड़ेगा, क्रेडिट अप्रेजल सबका होगा.
यस मैम.
फिर क्या
लेकिन कस्टमर को जिस मतलब रिक्वायरमेंट अमाउंट के वो अकॉर्डिंग देंगे ना, अमाउंट में क्या आरवाई उसका
अमाउंट की
है.
बात नहीं कर रहे हैं, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट क्रेडिट प्रोसेस. क्या है जब किसी को लोन लेना है तो व्हाट आर द स्टेजेस ही नीड्स टू गो थ्रू?
मैम डॉक्यूमेंट्स के लिए आप बात कर रहे हो?
क्या क्या करना होता है? पहले अप्लाई करना होता है, फिर क्रेडिट अप्रेजल होगा, फिर डिसीजन आएगा.
हाँ मैम, पहले हम लॉगिन करते हैं, कस्टमर का फाइल मतलब डॉक्यूमेंट्स उठाते हैं, फाइल लॉगिन करते हैं. लॉगिन में क्वेरी अगर कुछ नहीं आती है, कस्टमर का सिविल अच्छा है, कस्टमर ने कहीं और लोन अप्लाई नहीं किया है, अगर उसका 2 लोन चल रहा है तो हम बीटी में करेंगे. बैलेंस ट्रांसफर, अगर कस्टमर का पूरा सब कुछ फ्रेश है तो हम फ्रेश पे लगाएंगे फाइल. सैलरी स्लिप, पैन, आधार, फोटो, फॉर्म 16, रेजी परमानेंट एंड एड्रेस, कस्टमर का कंपनी एड्रेस लेंगे, कंपनी कहाँ जॉब करता है.
Anyways, So, loan is not a simple procedure as we, in normal life also, if we are giving money, then we are extra careful. So similarly, when we are opening a loan account, we will follow a process. It's not as simple as opening an account. Account opening, you do the KYC and the account will open. But in a loan, you will have to first do a credit appraisal. Appraisal, I think all of you would understand. Appraisal is to evaluate, the way whether you can go to next class, you are evaluated by a test. Similarly, whether the customer will be able to pay this amount is evaluated using various parameters, right? So for his salary, number of dependent, his education, his credit history, all that is evaluated to check if the customer will be able to pay the amount, and only then the loan is sanctioned. So when a loan proposal comes to a bank, the banker has to decide how much funds does the proposal really require for it to be viable project, and what are the credentials of those who are seeking the project. In checking the credential of potential borrowers, Credit Information Bureau plays an important role. So the way Bindu was talking about a CIBIL score is nothing but your credit history. So
Yes,
you have a you have a report card to show how you have been performing in the class. Only if you have been 35% or 45%, you will pass on to the next class. Otherwise, you will stay in the same class. So similarly, the CIBIL is seeing CIBIL is the history of how you have paid the earlier loan. So certain customers might not have any CIBIL history. People who have not taken any loan will not have any CIBIL history. But people who have taken a loan in the past, how they have paid that loan in the past is a representation of how they are going to pay the loan in future. So CIBIL is taken to see if the loan can be given or not. Okay, then mortgage loan. Mortgage is the charge which the bank creates if somebody takes a home loan.
yes,
So mortgage is basically the right of the bank to sell the house in case the customer is unable to pay the money. Right? So mortgage is a secured loan by real property through the use of mortgage note. A home buyer or builder can obtain financing either on purchase or secure against the property from a financial institution. So there are two kinds of loans you can take. One is to make that house, or if you have an existing house, to create liquidity also, you can take loan against it, which is known as loan against property. Similar in nature, but you can also take a loan against the house you own. So your mortgage is evidence of existence of loan and the encumbrance of that reality through granting a mortgage which secures the loan. So this is, if in the movies, or if you see, you will see that people had to mortgage their house for payment or for debt or for getting the daughter married. So that means the person, the lender will have the right to sell that property in case you do not pay the loan. So it can be bank or credit union, either directly or indirectly through intermediaries. So size of the loan can vary. Maturity of the loan I've seen, as I told you, it can vary. Loans can vary from few months to many years, 30 years in case of home loans. Then interest rate, the more secure the loan, the lesser would be the interest rate. Method of paying off the loan usually is EMI, which is equated monthly installment. If you remember, we had seen future value of an annuity, which where you calculate with the interest rate how much the customer has to pay. So all that needs to be seen. And mortgage lending is a primary mechanism used in many countries to finance private ownership of residential and commercial property. Although the terminology prescribed form will differ from country to country, the basic components tend to be similar. The property, so the bank will also see the property. So if you go around in your city, you will find that certain buildings have a placard attached to them saying that approved by Bank of Baroda or approved by SBI. It simply means that the bank has visited this site and they are ready to finance houses in this particular society. Okay, so physical verification of the property is also done by the bank. The exact form of ownership will vary from country to country. It may restrict the type of lending that is possible. So mortgage, in this, the security interest of the lender in the property, which may entail restriction on the use or disposal of the property. Restriction may include requirement to purchase home insurance and mortgage insurance or pay off outstanding debt before selling the property. So the people who have taken a home loan will not be able to sell their property until they have repaid the loan. So this is what I was telling you. Home loan can be obtained for various things. It can be obtained for purchase of new loan, for renovation of old home, or construction of a house. So these are secured loans with land or house as collateral for the debt. Collateral is asset of equal value. Then you can have a home equity loan. So it is a type of loan in which borrower uses the equity in their home, that means ownership in their home. Home equity loans are often used to finance major expenses such as home repairs, medical bill, or college education. So home equity loans are not for making the house. You already owe a house. You can create liquidity out of that house by taking a loan against property. Right? So what will the bank do? Bank will create a lien. That means you will not be able to sell that house until you repay the amount to the bank. So it creates a lien against the borrower's house and reduces actual home equity. So home equity installment loan is a way to consolidate debt or pay for major expenses. Borrower benefit from the security of fixed rate payment as principal and interest for the life of the loan, a steady repayment schedule, and potential tax advantage. Low monthly payment and fixed rate option on balances, and competitive interest rate with no closing cost.
Can you explain that home equity loan once again?
Home equity loan is equity. You know what equity means? Equity means ownership. So you own a house, you can create liquidity of through this house by taking a loan against it. So in India, we don't call home equity loan. In India, we use the nomenclature LAP or loan against property.
Yes,
Bindu, can you give us more information about loan against property? क्या
yes,
होता है
ma'am.
लोन अगेंस्ट प्रॉपर्टी में? हाँ बताइए.
मैम मैं पर्सनल लोन डिपार्टमेंट में थी, ना कि होम लोन डिपार्टमेंट.
अच्छा, okay. Anyways, so a home equity loan is basically called loan against property in India, where you can use your existing property to take loan. So you would have seen a lot of people who owe a very big house and they're not able to maintain it. They can't even sell it because that is the only place they have to live, right? So in that case, what they do is they will generate liquidity or generate money from their house by mortgaging it and taking a loan from the bank, the home equity loan. So they'll keep on paying the EMI so they can get it repaired and keep on paying the EMI.
Ma'am, what is the purpose of doing that?
It is creating liquidity, no? So you stay in Bhopal, na? Infant, where do you stay?
Coimbatore.
Achha, you are from Coimbatore, okay.
Okay.
Coimbatore also, you would have people who are very rich. Their ancestors were very rich, so they have made a house. But these inheritors don't do anything.
Okay. Some houses remain idle with no people in there. Something like that.
No. Even if you're living there,
Okay.
you're living there,
Okay.
but that is the only place you live.
Okay.
If you sell it off, you will not have a roof over your head.
Yeah.
Rather than selling, what you can do is you can mortgage the house to the bank.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
You can mortgage the house to the bank and create liquidity.
Okay.
And if you have some means, you keep on paying it so that you don't lose the ownership of the house, or the bank will sell it off to recover the money.
Okay. So, ma'am, the mortgaging the house, that depends, the time period, that depends upon the agreement between the
And
customer
that
and the
also
bank.
depends on the age of the customer, the amount and the age of the customer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So the term is flexible up to 30 years, as I was telling you. And there is fixed monthly payment for the life of the loan. Personal loan we have seen. Personal loan is a loan given on the personal credibility of the customer. There is no collateral attached. So these are unsecured loans. So a loan that is issued and supported only by the borrower's creditworthiness rather than any type of collateral. An unsecured loan is one that is obtained without the use of property as collateral for the loan. Borrowers generally must have high credit ratings to be approved for a unsecured loan. So here the only deciding criteria is the credibility of the customer. How will you know whether the customer is credible? His qualifications. So for example, Bindu was telling us to doctors we give the loan. So doctors' credibility is high because they will not remain unemployed. They will find some way to generate money, right? Also, people who have taken loan and paid that loan regularly in the past, in future also they will pay it. Then you can have automobile loans. Automobile loan, as the name suggests, is for buying automobiles. It can be a car, it can be a two-wheeler, it can be also a commercial vehicle. So banks provide finance for purchase of cars and two-wheelers to customers. These loans are secured as vehicle serves as collateral on the debt. The charge over the vehicle is registered with the concerned RTO by the financing bank. Banks offer competitive interest rates with convenient EMI for repayment of loan. Then there are priority sector loans. Now, what is priority sector? We have seen this.
Means
Education.
initiate to provide loans in the
But give me
particular
an
sector.
example. Tell me what is
Like
priority sector?
Ma'am, for
agriculture
education,
sector.
medical, health.
You are telling me examples of priority sector. What
Ma'am,
is priority? How will you define priority sector?
Ma'am, the essentials, the
The
sector.
sector which
Essentials, yeah, correct. Any sector or any business where RBI wants the banks to lend or the government of India wants to lend. So they will say this is priority. You have to lend money to these people first and then do the other business. So priority sector loans are actually regulated by RBI and the government. So they will give special instructions to the bank to give loans to a particular sector. So as of now, education, education, housing, agriculture, all these are priority sectors. And not all education loan to individuals for education purpose, including vocational courses up to 10 lakhs for studies in India and 20 lakhs for studies abroad are included under priority sector. Housing loans to individual up to 25 lakhs in metropolitan centers with population above 10 lakhs and 15 lakhs in other center of purchase. Construction of dwelling unit per family, excluding loan sanctions to bank-owned employees. Then the rate of interest. Obviously, priority sector, the rate of interest will be low because this is as per the RBI directives. So rate of interest on various priority sector loans will be as per RBI directives issued from time to time, which is linked to the base rate of the bank at present. Priority sector guidelines do not lay down any preferential rate of interest for priority sector loans. So base rate actually is the minimum rate at which the bank would lend. So you can do a little research, go and check websites of various banks and see. You will see normally the bank will not quote a fixed percentage of interest rate. The bank will quote the interest rate in relationship to the base rate. So base rate to define is the minimum rate at which the bank would lend. So now also nomenclated as MCLR. And RBI mandates that every bank should calculate the MCLR, which stands for marginal rate of marginal cost of lending rate. Now, why? So if you look at, so this is very simple concept. If you look at profit, when will any business make profit? When will any business make profit? I'm expecting a reply. When will any business make profit?
Ma'am,
When it covers its cost.
That means what?
Means when the company cover its variable cost or marginal
Yeah.
cost.
Correct. So that means when your selling price
Is
is
more than CP.
more than your CP. Right?
Cost price.
Now, when we are talking about cost price, it will also include all expenses, no? All expenses. Expenses, it will include all expenses. So RBI tells the bank this. So RBI says you have to fix a MCLR, because if you lend lower than this, you will not make a profit or you will have a loss. If you have a loss, there is a chance that you do not pay the deposit holder. So RBI tells the bank to calculate a MCLR, which is nothing but the cost of deposit. What do you understand by cost of deposit? What do you understand by cost of deposit?
The rate what we provide to a customer on
Yeah,
his
yeah,
deposit.
the interest rate which the bank has to pay to the
Customer.
lender. So if it is RBI, what they have to pay to, if it is RBI, what rate we will take? Which rate? If the bank is borrowing from RBI, which rate? At which rate they borrow?
The bank rate.
Bank rate or repo rate? Yeah.
Yeah.
So cost of deposit plus expenses plus the profit which the bank is looking at. Right? So they have to calculate MCLR keeping this in mind. And therefore you will see different banks have different MCR because their expenses might be different. Their profit might be different. Cost of deposit also might be different. If you look at newer banks, they accept deposits at a higher rate, whereas established banks like RBI, like SBI or HDFC pay a very lesser rate of interest compared to the newer banks. Okay, so their cost of deposit is different, expenses are different, the profit margin they want to earn is also different. You know, for example, SBI, the volumes are so high that even if they earn little less profit, that is okay. So every bank will have a different MCLR. And the cost of lending would be linked to this. So you can do a little, we will talk about it in the next week. But in the meantime, I want you to visit some of the bank's website and look at the way of quoting the interest rate. Usually banks will quote the interest rate as, for example, MCLR plus 2%, right? Or MCLR plus 1%, something like that. They will not quote the exact rate like 6.5 or 7.5. They'll say MCLR plus 2%, MCLR plus 5%. Okay. So this is the way banks quote their lending rate, because their lending rate is dependent on their MCLR, marginal cost of lending rate. So marginal cost of lending rate is the minimum rate at which a bank will lend. And as per RBI, all banks have to calculate this. Okay. So this was earlier known as base rate, but now the nomenclature is MCLR. So there are other loans also which the customer can take from the bank, which is loan against security or gold loan. So what will be they will be secured loan or unsecured loan?
Secured loan.
Yeah, secured loans, because there is a collateral.
Security.
Security.
So when this gets given to the business, it is known as advance. So advances, credit, loan, facilities, all of this means lending by the bank. Okay. Now, when you are in a business, apart from money, you might also need some assurances. So, for example, I am a buyer. I want to buy something from seller A. Seller A doesn't know me. He doesn't know whether I will pay money or not. Okay. So he insists that I make the payment and only then he will pay. But I don't have the money now. I will, take the goods from him, then, manufacture, then sell it off, and then I will have money to pay him. He will not listen to me. In that case, he will not listen to me. My credibility is not assured. However, if a bank says so, if a bank says that, okay, I will ensure that you get the payment, that statement would have more credibility. So bank helps the business in by providing fund-based facilities where the money is given to the businesses, like for buying fixed assets or for making their meeting their working capital expenses. Also, the bank gives certain kind of guarantees or assurance which are known as non-fund-based lending. So banks do fund-based lending, which is where the money is given. Then you have non-fund-based lending, which are more like guarantees or assurances where the bank is not actually paying. These are assurances. And these are also required in business. And as we've seen, banks play a very important role in the growth of an economy. Okay, only when people can do business will the economy generate employment and prosperity, no? Right? So there is also pressure on the bank to help the business. So bank can help the business by fund-based lending or non-fund-based lending, which can be in form of letter of credit or bank guarantee. So actually there is no fund, there is no money passing on from the bank to the customer. The bank is only giving an assurance or guarantee on behalf of the customer. Okay. So therefore there should be risk-free, completely risk-free. Do you agree with me? So non-fund based lending would be risk-free because there is no money moving in. Yes or no? Hello guys. So fund-based lending, we know there is risk. There is credit risk of the money not coming back. But non-fund-based based lending, where the bank is not giving any money, should be risk-free. Do you think so?
It
No,
has
ma'am.
a risk
No. Yeah, no. Why not?
because it gives assurance.
Correct. It gives assurance. So the bank has assured that payment would be made. In case the customer makes the payment, no problem. But in case the customer does not make the payment, the bank will have to make that payment, right? So I think all of you should have read about Nirav Modi. Nirav Modi's fraud was more of non-fund-based lending. The bank did not know that this kind of liability existed. What will you call it in the balance sheet? How will you show in the balance sheet of a bank? You will
Ma'am,
show it
please
as
repeat.
Contingent liability.
correct. You will show it as contingent liabilities. So these are certain loans or facilities which are given by the bank to the businesses, and they're especially required in foreign trade. Yeah. So fund-based lending, bank provide finance for purchase of cars and two-wheelers, commercial vehicle to customers. In most cases, a loan is backed by primary or collateral security. The loan can provide for financial capital goods or working capital requirement. Whereas non-fund-based lending, in non-fund-based lending, the banks makes no fund outlays. That means the bank does not give any loan. Such arrangement may be covered to fund-based advances. Contingent liabilities of bank is when the client fails to fulfill the terms of his contract with the counterparty. So facilities such as letter of credit, guarantees fall under the category of non-fund-based lending. Clear? Then these are two kind of non-fund-based lending. Letter of credit. So letter of credit basically is an assurance by the buyer's bank to the seller that the buyer is going to make the payment. So a letter from a bank guaranteeing that a buyer payment to a seller will be received on time and for the contracted amount. In the event,
Ma'am,
yeah,
ma'am, how does this work, ma'am? Letter of credit.
okay. So letter of credit is an assurance by the buyer's bank. Okay. So for example, there is a Coimbatore. Yeah, Coimbatore. It would be very popular because Coimbatore is known exports a lot of textile. No.
Yeah, Manchester of South India.
Yeah. Manchester of South. So it exports a lot.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you have a manufacturer in Coimbatore. Say for example, manufacturing cotton sarees.
Okay.
Okay. Now a person from say Malaysia contacts him saying that send me 1,000 sarees.
Okay.
What is the biggest risk for the saree manufacturer here? What is the risk?
Whether he received the money.
Correct. So he will, he will manufacture the saree. He will incur and cost. And if he doesn't receive the money, it would be very difficult. No, it will be a loss for him. So he tells the buyer, okay, I'll do that, but you get a letter of credit from the bank. So the buyer in Malaysia will go to his bank, tell them to issue a letter of credit. Now the Malaysian bank obviously will not issue it just like that. So they will write, tell the buyer to keep some money with them or keep a collateral, and based on that, they will issue a guarantee saying that if you send 100 sarees, I will assure you that the payment is made. Correct.
Okay.
So now what? So on receiving this, the seller has a guarantee, right? Now the seller will send, even if the buyer does not pay, the bank will ensure that the payment is made.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So this is also known as documentary credit because the payment is based on documents. So when the seller is sending the sarees, he will have to send the sarees along with the invoice or the order from the seller, buyer, and the letter of credit.
Okay.
Buyer will send the sarees and this. Okay. Now these documents will be presented to the buyer's bank. Buyer's bank will look at, this was the order, this is my guarantee, and this is the consignment details. So the seller has sent the consignment. Now, as per my guarantee, I need to pay him. And based on that, they will pay. They'll ask the customer to pay, the buyer to pay. If the buyer does not pay, then obviously they will have to pay. So this is how it works.
Ma'am, for example, if the 100 sarees, say for example, 100 sarees is being sent by the seller for which the payment is made by the buyer, then if the remaining, if the buyer is not able to pay, then the bank will
pay. Yeah, the bank will have to pay because they have given the guarantee. Based on that guarantee, the seller has actually manufactured these sarees, no?
Yeah.
So that is how the transaction works.
Yes.
Okay. So in the event the buyer is unable to make payment on purchase, the bank will require to cover the full or remaining amount of the purchase. And these are used in international transaction because international transaction, obviously, the saree seller from Coimbatore can't go to Malaysia, no?
Yeah.
It will be another expense for him.
Yes.
So this is required in international transaction. Okay, so in case of Nirav Modi, the opposite happened. He was importing gems from other countries, for which fraudulent letter of credits were given. This the bank was not aware of. Yeah. So the bank also acts on behalf of the buyer by ensuring that the supply will not be paid until bank receives the confirmation that the goods have been shipped. So I told you this, that the seller will have to send the invoice, that is the order, the letter of credit, along with the shipment details. Now, when the bank is making payment, they need to be assured that the seller has sent the goods. If the seller has not sent the goods, the payment should not be made. Okay, so they will ensure that the seller has sent the goods. So basically, a letter of credit gives the seller assurance that he will receive the payment for goods. In order for the payments to occur, the seller has to present the bank with the necessary shipping documents. confirming the shipment of goods within a given time frame. It is often used in international trade to eliminate risks such as unfamiliarity with foreign countries, custom or political instability. So to define or to recap, a letter of credit is a assurance given by the buyer bank to the seller. Now it can be a bank guarantee also. Guarantee again is that you are confirming that the payment would be made. So bank guarantees. So bank guarantee is a guarantee given by a person, bank to a third party to pay him a certain sum on behalf of the bank's customer on the customer failing to fulfill any contractual or legal obligation towards the third person. So yes, the asset products process would be little more stringent or little more long drawn because of the risk involved. In deposit product, the only risk can be money laundering or fraudulent activities or misuse of money. But in asset products, you have a very high credit risk as well. So the traditional deposit products are saving account, banking account, saving account. Then salary accounts. Salary accounts are special accounts where instead of depending on the customer, the bank ties up with a company. So for example, HDFC Bank ties up with Times of India. That would mean that now the salary of all the people of working in Times of India will be credited to the HDFC account. That means all the people of Times of India will have to necessarily open an account with HDFC Bank. Obviously, the bank also provides certain facilities to the people holding salary accounts. So for example, Bindu was telling us that we give it only to salary account. Okay, so salary account is the bank also offers preferential treatment to these people because the bank is receiving lump sum money at one go. So customized salary account to suit the needs of corporate employer. Current account is an account which has more liquidity than saving account and usually used for business purpose, but there is no restriction. Even individuals can open current account. So current account, cost-effective solution to maximize cash flow, provides sweep in, sweep out facility on EOD balances. Sweep in, sweep out is either credit or debit. EOD is end of day balances. We don't need to understand too much here. When we come to type of deposit, I'll explain these facilities. Then you can have regular term deposit or linked deposits, recurring deposits. So recurring comes from the word reoccur. That means they occur again and again or happen again and again. So fixed deposit, if you have a lump sum, you can deposit.
Yeah.
Recurring deposit for a person who's just started his salary might not have a lump sum and he saves through a small amount of money every month. So for example, he can have a recurring of 2,000 and by the end of the year, he will have 24,000. So recurring. So 4 types of account. These are also known as, okay. So you can classify them as this. However, there is a broad classification of these accounts. So current account and saving account are collectively known as
demand deposit.
Demand deposit. So what would demand mean? What would it mean? They are payable on demand.
You can demand your deposits, your money you have deposited.
Yeah, you can get your money back anytime. And whereas fixed deposit and recurring deposits are known as time deposit. Okay, we have understood this concept when we were looking at, RBI.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Who's that? Your brother?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am.
Okay, so current account and saving account are classified as demand deposit and these are time deposit. Difference is that this money can be withdrawn anytime and time deposit is withdrawn after a certain time. Now the bank also provide liquidity on this, but bank can charge penalties on withdrawing this money earlier than contracted. Also, banks in today's time have introduced 2-in-1 accounts, which give you the facility of both demand deposits and time deposits. So what is the advantage of demand deposit and what is the advantage of demand deposit?
Time deposit.
Sorry, time deposit. Yeah. What's the advantage of demand deposit? What is the advantage?
In demand deposit, we can easily withdraw our money whenever we need.
Yeah.
But in time deposit, there's some restriction while withdrawal.
Okay. And what is the advantage of time deposit over demand deposit?
In time deposit, we earn more interest in comparison of demand deposit.
Yeah. So demand deposit and time deposit have different advantages. Time deposit gives you better rate of interest, whereas demand deposits give you liquidity. So banks have introduced accounts which can give you both. We are going to understand more about it when we look at type of accounts again, but that is what it is. We've done this. So saving account also get an interest, but the calculation of interest is different. In fixed deposit, it is quarterly compounding. What is quarterly compounding? Do you guys remember? We had seen it when we were looking at accounts.
Ma'am, every 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah. So every 3 months, the interest is calculated. However, in a saving account, the interest is calculated every day. So every day, whatever is your balance, you will calculate the interest at the rate of 3% per annum or 2.5. What is the interest rate? So interest is calculated every day. So this is not the case anymore. If you see, various banks offer various interest rates. Banks like IDFC and Bandhan will offer you much higher interest rates, whereas banks like HDFC, SBI will offer much lower interest. So now these interest rates are also deregulated. I hope all of you understand the meaning of deregulated. What would deregulated mean?
Rules less.
RBI will not tell how much to pay.
Ma'am, it is a kind of decentralization. I mean, transferring of power.
Deregulated. That means,
Transferring of power from head to the local.
Yeah. So the RBI will not decide how much interest you're going to pay. The bank will be free to decide on their own. So this is not the case anymore. Banks are free to decide the interest rate they want to pay. So with recent changes, banks are now allowed to fix their interest rates for saving account customers. Now, saving account customers, okay. So demand deposits can be current account. In India, we call it current account. In US, it's called as checking account. So current account, there is no interest paid. So that is the difference between saving account and current account. There is no interest paid because there is higher liquidity. So this is one relationship which we need to remember in finance. Liquidity and return are inversely proportional. So risk and return are directly proportional, but liquidity and returns are inversely proportional. That means higher the liquidity, lesser would be the return. So current account has very high liquidity. There are no restriction on the number of transactions you can do in a current account. And therefore, there is no interest paid. So transactional account known as current account in North America or checking account. In India, we call it current account. A transactional account is known as current account or check account. In India, we call it current account. Because money is available on demand, it is also sometimes known as demand account or demand deposit account. Or current accounts may also allow borrowing via an overdraft facility. So overdraft comes from the word overdraw. So when we take out money from our account, we say we have drawn money. Draw is to take out money from your account. When you draw more than you have in your account, that is known as overdraft. Okay, so current accounts are sometimes given overdraft facilities. So an overdraft occurs when money is withdrawn from a bank account and available balance goes below zero. In this situation, the account is said to be overdrawn. If negative balances exceeds the agreed term, then additional fees may be charged and higher interest rates may be. So it's a kind of loan. If the bank is allowing you to withdraw more than you have in your account, the bank is actually giving you a loan, right? So the bank is definitely going to charge you some interest rates on this. If there is a prior agreement with account provider for an overdraft and the amount overdrawn is within the authorized overdraft limit, then interest is normally charged at the agreed rate. So overdraft can be given against a current account and fixed deposit account. And this is an account of HDFC. So this is also your homework. Okay. So your homework is to visit bank's website and look at the different different type of accounts.
No.
Okay? So look at HDFC account or ICICI, look at the Axis Bank, look at the different kind of accounts which a bank provides. The certificate of deposit is not provided by the banks in India. However, banks can borrow through certificate of deposits in the money market. So if you remember, when we were looking at financial markets, we had seen the financial market and the capital market products. We had seen the certificate of deposit is a capital market, a money market product where banks can borrow for a short time. In India, certificate of deposit is not provided to retail customers through the branches. So if you can look at it in terms of fixed deposit.
Yes.
We have fixed deposit of 1 year. So in India, you can keep a fixed deposit for from 7 days to 10 years. So that is the tenure for which you can choose a fixed deposit. So you can also keep it for 1 year. That's not a problem. Anyway, so it's a time deposit, a financial product commonly offered to customers. In exchange for keeping the money on deposit for agreed on term, bank gives higher interest rates than they do on accounts from which money may be withdrawn or demand like savings. Then interest calculation on fixed deposit, as I've told you, it is quarterly. So what would be N? What would be N then if it is quarterly?
If it is quarterly.
It's 1/4.
1/4. Correct. So N will be 4. So A is equal to P, 1 plus R by N, N by T. What is T here? Okay, it's given here. Number. There's the number of years. So we have seen this many times, and in school also you would have seen. So A is the final amount, P is the principal, R is the interest rate, N is the number of period. So if it is quarter, then it would be 4, and this would be 4 into 1 or 2, depending on the number of years. So I hope all of you will be able to calculate this. So if you keep 1,500 rupees in the bank for 6 years and paying an annual interest of 4.3 compounded annually, then P would be 1,500, R would be 4.3 by 100 because person means by 100, N will be 4 and T will be 6. So you will earn an interest of 438 rupees. So this is how the interest is calculated on fixed deposit. So if you look at the difference in current account and saving account, both are, the similarity is that both are demand deposit and therefore they are given a checkbook to withdraw the money anytime you want. However, The saving account has a restriction of number of transactions which can be done through the account. There are no restrictions on the number of transactions which can be done in the current account. Right? So the current account, they are usually for businessmen and daily transaction. It does not serve the purpose of saving with interest benefits on the account balance because there is no interest paid on the balances in the current account. The transaction facility of the account is so flexible that one can make innumerable transactions in a day. So there is no restriction on the number of transactions you can do in a current account. However, in a saving account, you have a restriction. So banks therefore do not pay any interest on the balance amount, but in charge certain service charge on the account. So as I was telling you, higher the liquidity, lesser would be the interest rate. So current account has very high liquidity. Therefore, there is no interest paid on the balances in the current account. Saving account, as the name suggests, the main purpose is saving or to inculcate the habit of saving. So interest, a small amount of interest is paid in this. So they are most popular kind of individual accounts for the purpose of personal saving, which earn interest on the amount. The customer is provided with a check facility along with flexibility for deposit and withdrawal of funds from the account. Recurring deposit and fixed deposits are similar, where the customer agrees to keep that money for a pre-decided amount of time. However, fixed deposit is in one lump sum, whereas recurring deposit is again and again. So in recurring deposit, you don't have to keep a lump sum. So recurring deposit, these accounts also known as RD accounts are for individual who wish to invest an average amount of their savings on a monthly basis. These accounts earn interest on amount available in the account. This account is specially designed for the working public who cannot invest a large amount at one instance. So this I explained to you. Recurring account are for people who cannot save in one go. They will save over a period of time. Then you have the fixed deposit. Fixed deposit, the amount accounts popularly known as FDs are available under various schemes with a tenure of 7 days to 10 years. This account is especially designed for those who want to deposit their saving for a long term to earn good rate of interest. But the interest rate on these accounts varies from bank to bank. The short-term deposits are also very useful for corporates to earn some interest on their idle funds. The term fixed denotes the period of maturity or tenure. Okay, so these are various kind of deposit products. So to recap what we have covered today, so we have covered retail banking. Retail banking, as we have seen, is different from corporate banking. Retail banking is more about borrowing, whereas corporate banking or business banking is more about lending. Yeah. And we've seen various kind of retail banking product, and we've also seen some corporate banking products like the letter of credit and guarantees. Okay, so we are going to cover them more in detail in the next session when we are going to start with corporate banking. So we have still not started with what Sakshi had sent. I'll update her because we are going a little late in this thing. So we have to still finish introduction to corporate banking before we do retail products and before we do liability products, deposit products and operations. So we still have one topic to cover, which is corporate banking, which probably we will do next week. Just give me a moment. Introduction to banking, corporate banking. Okay, introduction to corporate banking. Okay, so we'll cover the next topic in the next week. In the meantime, if you have any questions to ask, we still have a couple of minutes left. We can talk about it, or we can discuss. Yeah. Yes, Akshay.
Hello.
Yes, Akshay. I can hear you.
Ma'am, yeah, ma'am. In the none part, like finance primer, wealth management, and banking, there is a none corner. So, ma'am, in that corner, we have read about financial mathematics and about there is one chapter more, ma'am. I don't remember that. So we have left the law of banking rules, ma'am. I think this is a chapter. So would we cover it or not?
We will definitely cover it. So just because it is written none doesn't mean we will not cover it. We will cover it.
Okay, ma'am.
Maybe they
And
have not classified it, but it will be covered.
and we have studied one chapter from wealth management.
From wealth management, which chapter we studied? Which chapter we have studied from wealth management?
And I think tomorrow I had checked it.
Yesterday, tomorrow will come.
Sorry, ma'am. Yesterday.
Yeah. Yesterday you have checked it.
I think I don't remember that.
I think financial planning. See, financial planning we had just started because somehow it is a part of semester 1. But financial planning, I've just given you an overview. We're going to study in much detail when we come to
So, ma'am, how long our course will run now?
I don't have an idea because a full-time course, which is 5 days a week, 3 hours per day, runs for around 3.5, 4 months. So I'm not really sure how long it will run. So what you can do is you can just drop a message. Sakshi would answer it. Sakshi would have made a session plan for you.
Ma'am, actually, I had asked my counselor, Swapnil ma'am, so she told me that I would ask you to.
I will not be able to tell you because I'm not calculated. Ask Sakshi. Sakshi will tell you.
Ma'am, is this
regarding? You have something to say?
Yeah, ma'am, is this regarding the duration of the course?
Yeah.
Ma'am, like I'm not sure, but when I asked one of my counselors, she told like it was around July, so she told me like probably by October, first week or second week, something like that.
October.
Yeah, October.
It will be more than 4 months.
Yeah, I guess because.
Because you not have. That's what I'm saying. You're having 3 days lesser than the normal course.
Yeah.
So it's going to take time. And October also, I'm not too sure because we have a long way to cover. So we've just covered semester 1. We have to cover semester 2, 3, and 4. So we have a long way to go. But don't worry about it. Just drop a message to Sakshi. She'll let you know when exactly your course will be.
Okay,
Ma'am?
Yes.
Ma'am, yesterday I'm studying time and work. In this, one question, there were 2 questions which I didn't understand.
Okay.
Can I ask here?
Yes, ask.
Yes, ma'am. The question 1 is, A can finish a work in 24 days, B in 9 days, and C in 12 days. Oh, sorry, I read the wrong question. A does half as much work as B in 3/4 of the time.
Okay.
If together they take 18 days to complete the work, how much time shall be take to do it?
Okay, so for that you will have to compute the efficiency. So assume that B does in what are the variables provided? If you can just tell me the variables provided.
Yes. A does half as much work as B.
Okay, A does half as much as B. Okay, and
in 3/4 time.
Okay, and what else?
If together they take 18 days to complete the work.
Okay, fine. So
Yes,
if you assume that B does in X days and X obviously does in 3/4 time, you know. But how is that
okay.
possible? He does half the work and he completes it in, okay, 3/4 time. He's
Means
more efficient or what?
ma'am, I think his efficiency is more than B, and he take B. If B takes
No,
fourth,
no, he does half the work, no? Half the work.
oh yeah, his efficiency was less than B,
Yes, his
and
efficiency is less than work and he does, okay, that is okay. His
okay.
efficiency is less than B and he takes 3/4 time.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So I think, okay, fine. So assume that B takes X amount of days. So
Okay.
A would take 2X,
Okay, ma'am.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
So 1 plus X plus 1 by 2X is equal to 1 by 18.
Yes, ma'am.
So
It's
2 plus 1 by 2X is equal to 1 by 18. So 3 by 2X is equal to 1
equals
by
to 1 by 18.
3
3.
into 18 is equal to 2 by X, 9. 27 days. 27 days is what B will take, and 54 days should be what A would take. That is the answer. What is the answer?
How much time should B take to reach
27 days is the answer. 27 days.
The answer is 30 days.
I'm sorry,
30.
30 days.
Yes, ma'am.
No, but you okay.
Ma'am, can I share the picture in the
Yeah,
book?
just show me the picture.
Oh, yeah, sure.
As per the logic, it is coming 27 days. So 1 by 27 plus 1 by 54. 54, 2 plus 1, 54 by 3 is equal to 18. If you do the reverse calculation, it is coming correct. I think the answer is wrong. Because even if you do the reverse calculation, that
Yes,
means
ma'am.
A does it in 54 days, B does in 27 days. If you add it, it is coming to 18 days. No?
Okay, ma'am.
Otherwise, if B is doing in 30 days, then A will do in 60 days. So 30 plus 1 by 60. No, then the answer will not be the same. No? So 2 plus 1, 60. So it will be 20 days then. It will not be 18 days. So even if you do a reverse calculation, so B does in 30 days and A will do obviously in 60 days. No, but I think this 3/4 has a thing to do. So, okay, half. Okay, I think this 3/4 has a role to play. Just give me a moment. So A does half work in 3/4 days. No, so so X will take 6 by 4 days to do the work. Can you, okay, just let me have a look here. 1 minute. View screen. Okay. A does half as much work as B in 3/4. Okay. So I've not considered this. Okay. 3/4 amount of time. Okay. So he will take 1.5. Right. Now I'll get the answer. 1.5 times. Right. So 1 by X plus 1.5X is equal to 1 by 18. 1.5X, sorry, 2.5 by 1.5X is equal to 1 by 18. So 2.5 into 18 by 1.5. 5 into 18 by 15. Yes, I got the answer, 30. Kavya? Who was it? Yeah, it was Kavya or Prerna. I'm sorry, I didn't get it. Okay, so let me tell you how it will be.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Actually, I didn't understand the question.
So the information given is A does half amount of work, 1 by 2 in 3/4 of time, like B, right? Assuming that B does the work in X time. So how much time will A take? A will take 6 by 4. 6 by 4, no? Yeah, 6 by 4. Cross multiply.
1 by 2 into 3 by 4.
Cross multiply this. Okay. So A will do in 6 by 4. Or you can say A will require 1.5 times the time which B takes. And then we will use this 1 by X plus 1 by 1.5 is equal to, X obviously. X is equal to 1 by 18. LCM would be 1.5x, 1.5 plus 1 by 1.5x is equal to 1 by 18. Sorry, 1 by 18. You take 2.5 into 18 by 1.5 is equal to X. So you just simply multiply, simply fixing it. This will go 3 times, 5 times, and then 6 times, so 30.
Understood. Now, if I have some doubt, can I share the questions in the WhatsApp group?
I'm sorry.
Ma'am, further, I have any doubt and between the classes, so I can share the questions picture in the group. You will help me.
Okay.
I'm not asking lot for 1 or 2 questions.
No issues, no issues. But you might, I might take some time.
Yeah. Not I'm just asking them. Please tell me now. Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Chalo, then we will meet tomorrow then. Not tomorrow, next week. In the meantime, you have your homeworks to do. No? What is your
Yes, ma'am.
homework?
Ma'am, marginal
The interest rates, you need to find the interest rates
and the
and
different
products
accounts
of various banks.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye, ma'am.